Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 200 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is?
Today's topic is joint ventures without getting out of joint. Your hosts are Brittany Fransbrook from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc. What can you expect from the Knack for Business podcast? It aims to help you find your feet in the business world. Whether you're just starting out or you've been at it for a while, we have something for everyone. In each episode, they dive deep into a particular area of business and explore the ins and outs of that subject. They interview guests that are experts in their field who share success stories and their experiences. They offer practical tips and advice. Our guest today is Michael Whitehouse from A Guy Who Knows a Guy. He's known as the guy who knows a guy, and he's returning to the Knack for Business podcast after his insightful appearance in season 2, where he shared strategies on profitable networking with ease. Starting from scratch in Connecticut, Michael quickly became a key connector and turned his networking skills into a successful book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy. In 2020, he expanded his reach globally through virtual networking, organizing one of the largest virtual networking events ever. Now he's back in season 3 to continue sharing his expertise on building profitable connections with ease. Michael, welcome back. What is your favorite quote or saying, sir?
What is my favorite quote or saying? One that I've had at the bottom of my email for the longest time that I happen to notice again is the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes slightly longer, which I believe is attributed to some Marine general or something like that. But I think it's been reused many times. And I love the concept of it.
That makes a strong calling and a strong point. So joint ventures. Tell us about joint ventures. What is a joint venture in your definition?
A joint venture or a collaboration is where multiple businesses come together for mutual benefit. We see this a lot in the entrepreneur space with these collaborations. And joint ventures, I prefer to use that for its legally defined term because a joint venture in most spaces means creating an actual joint entity and joint liability. And this is what a attorney friend of mine has pointed out. Ian Foster is that particular expert. And he said, yeah, you could use that. The IRS has a particular definition of a joint venture. And if you put that in your contracts and your legal documents, they're going to say, we think we know what these words mean. After they audit you, you can explain it to them, or you could not use it, not get audited in the first place. I prefer to use joint venture to mean actual joint collaboration. So if you and I build a course together and sell it together, that's a joint venture. We're jointly liable. We share the profits. But joint ventures, collaborations is usually more of a promotional collaboration, promotional partnership, where you're running an event and I'm promoting it to my email list and you're going to give me commission on sales, or a podcast is a form of collaborative partnership that you are giving me exposure. I'm giving you content, and thus we've collaborated. We see that in the larger corporate world. When McDonald's has an Inside Out toy from a Disney or Pixar movie, then that's a collaboration. That is, McDonald's is promoting, the movie is promoting McDonald's, and likely money does not change hands in that process. It's an exchange of exposure. But we don't see that as much in the corporate world because usually that's about advertising. You pay for advertising. But in the coaching world, the online knowledge sharing world, we see it a great deal. It's very effective because you don't have to necessarily pay up front. You promote up front, you pay on results. That means we can do a lot more together. We can support each other a lot more. And it eliminates a lot of the vagaries. I've never been a big fan of advertising and general marketing because marketing agencies, almost none of them work on results. They say, give us money, we'll make ads for you. The ads will run. We promise they will run. I'm like, that doesn't do me any good. What's going to happen when they run? People will see them, probably. And then what? They might buy something, but you'll definitely get paid, but people might buy something? There's a disconnect between who is definitely doing something, me paying, and what might happen, me making money. So these collaborative partnerships are more tied directly to the results. And the other thing that's cool about them is that there's a reputational connection. If I promote Wayne's program, that I am saying, I think Wayne's a good guy. Whereas if ABC runs an ad for Bud Light, ABC is saying Bud Light's check cleared. They're not endorsing them. They're simply, we took their money, we're showing you the ad. It's not really an endorsement. And so this can also, to some degree, be a firewall against some of the less scrupulous people in the industry. Because if you get to know the right people and the right influencers, then you look and you say, oh, if Michael's endorsing them, then they're probably a decent guy. Versus if Joe Schmo endorses them, he'll endorse anyone who pays a commission. So you can use that as a measure of who is trustworthy.
I guess that's where the concept of promotional partnership comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you have seen, I have to say JV at least 5 times a day, or I don't think I'm serious.
Yeah, it's very common in the industry. I run an event called JV Connect, and I haven't thought of a better name yet. JV. It's like KFC. KFC no longer means Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's actually called KFC. JV Connect is just JV, just like JLo.
So what has to be in place? You've seen a lot of people attempt JBs. Some I'm assuming were spectacular failures because life.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to have in place before entering into a JB to suggest it might work?
Yeah, most of the ones I see are spectacular failures for a number of reasons. Someone has 100 partners, 20% of them are going to generate 80% of the results for various reasons. The person with 50,000 emails will probably drive you more traffic than the person with 500 emails, although not always. When I run summits, I've had people with 500 people on their email list out promote people with 50,000 on their email list. I had this concept of being collaboration ready, which is that before you go out looking for partners, you need to have something which is ready to be promoted. Now, this sounds obvious, and yet I hear people all the time saying, hey, you want to promote my thing? Great. What is it? I'm still working on that. Do you have swipe copy for it? No, I'm still working on that. Have you ever sold it to anyone? No. Then what am I promoting? An idea you have? So before you go out and start getting partners, you have to get comfortable with yourself before you can bring someone else into it. You have to sell the program to your own audience. You have to get results from it. You have to show that if somebody buys, they're going to get what they paid. You have to show that if somebody comes to the webinar or workshop or sales process, that you know how to turn them into sales. I have people all the time, oh, I'm paying 50% of the $1,000 ticket price or the $1,000 program price. You can get $500. I say, I'm not going to get anything because I don't think you can sell it. If I send you 50 people and you can't close any of them, 50 times 0 is 0. And we see that a lot, that people have these unproven things. The program's unproven, the sales process is unproven, the copy's unproven, the landing page is unproven. And then they have partners drive traffic to it and they say, we don't know what's going on. Because now you have this additional variable. You can tell so many clicks went to the landing page, so many of them enrolled, and so many bought. But once you have traffic coming from partners, you don't know what kind of traffic that is. You know what your list is. You can survey them, you know where you got them, whatnot. But your partners, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what kind of traffic they're sending. For example, we often measure clicks to a website, how many people went to the landing page, and then divide that into the number of people who register. On my strategy, I send daily emails with a resource letter. If I'm promoting something, I might send out an email every day, or it may be 13 emails in a row. There's a lot of systems that automatically click on every link in an email. People tell me, oh, wow, you've gotten 409 clicks. And I'm like, yeah, that's an artifact of the system. That's not because I'm amazing. That's because there's little robots clicking on every link. Doesn't mean somebody actually went to it. Whereas someone else who sends 2 dedicated emails gets 60 clicks. But out of their 60 clicks, 15 people actually opt in. Out of my 400, 7 people actually opt in. And then they're looking and saying, oh, what is about our page? Do we need to change our copy? Do we have to change the design? No, you have to change the way you measure it because those aren't real engagements. But you don't know my email list versus Bernie's email list versus Wayne's email list. If you send it from your own list and you know what kind of traffic it's getting, then you can measure and then you can send new traffic from your list after you've adjusted it. But you need to dial it in internally before you start bringing in partners and having them promote for you.
Would you have to figure out then, in 2 different rhythms or several different rhythms, depending on the number of people collaborating? I've seen where there is a joint venture where a coffee maker company makes a coffee maker,
Hmm.
and then the supply chain or the coffee, they both did a cross promo together, right? Two different companies. The cultures are different. The life cycle of the purchase is different. The costs are different. Buy a coffee maker once a week if you did something terribly wrong, or stop one of them and just go to Starbucks or whatever coffee shop. And the other one is it's high frequency purchases or
Hmm.
cyclic. I'm taking from what you've just described now that your audiences are somewhat to be similar but dissimilar. In other words, it's a different. So how do you, before you get together and doing something with somebody, how do you map that out? Going, listen, how are we going to measure it, and what is your demographic look like? How do you sort that out?
So the coffee is a great example of a potential for collaboration because the collaboration between them can smooth out the differences between them. So the coffee maker has the issue that once they sell a coffee maker, you're not going to buy another one, but you are going to keep buying coffee. For every customer, they have the customer lifetime value might be the profit on one, maybe two coffee makers. But if they can then be the one who's the referral partner to the coffee, and if there's multiple coffee choices they could have, but they were for coffee company A, and now they can take 10% of that in perpetuity. Now they have an ongoing revenue stream without having to become a coffee producer because they're simply promoting that company. And that's actually a really good combination because it takes a one-time model and pairs it with an ongoing model. But the main thing is if you have appropriate tracking systems, so you have a way to track that this traffic came from this source, and then we're going to keep paying ongoing, then I'm a big fan of try it and see if it works. Because affiliate with promotional partnerships, they are generally not very high stakes things, or they shouldn't be. It's promoting to your email list. It's putting a coupon in the package that says, now that you're getting coffee, or a sample in the package, something like that. Done right, promoting a partner is a value add to your community. In my newsletter, I have the email at the top, all the main content, and below that, here are some people doing cool things that you might want to know about. I've gotten people say, "Oh, I love your resource letter." The resource letter is just 5 to 8 people that I'm promoting who you'll hopefully go to the freebie and then buy their thing and I get commission. None of that's charity. I'm not doing it because I'm just trying to help people out. I'm doing it because these are partners who will pay me commissions. But they are all partners who offer something my audience might find valuable. So my audience does find it valuable. And now I've got 7 more items of value, even if the email is not interesting to them. If you do it correctly, if it's something that's valuable to your audience, then you're adding value in the offer itself and generate revenue afterwards. Where you get into trouble is when you just start chasing commissions or reciprocating. There's this big concept in the online coaching world of reciprocated promotions. You promote me, I promote you. Now, this comes from the day when there was 100-ish, 200 players, and all of them were promising variations on the same thing, get rich quick. It was some model of this one's teaching real estate strategies, this one's teaching crypto strategies, and this one's teaching gold, but it's all make money. So they could all promote each other because they could say, hey, if you're looking to make money with gold, go see this guy. If you're looking to make money in real estate, go see this guy. And they could reciprocate easily. The real estate guy could promote the gold guy, promote the real estate guy. And the other thing that happens is because their lists are very transactional. It's buy my stuff. People were unsubscribing constantly, so it wasn't really a valuable list. And you just grind your list until people left, and then your partners would promote you back, rebuild your list, and on you go. In the more authentic, heart-centered coaching space, our audience is our friends and neighbors, not a bunch of nameless, faceless targets. That reciprocation thing doesn't work because we offer different solutions. We do different things. We're not all selling get rich quick. We're selling different solutions. And so you can't necessarily reciprocate because the value doesn't go both ways. There's one partner I promote. She basically helps menopausal and perimenopausal women, which is about 45 to 70, with bioidentical hormone replacement therapies and similar solutions. I promote it because my target audience is primarily coaches, and the average coach is a woman between 45 and 70. There's plenty of coaches who are men, but demographically, 2/3, 3/4 of the heart-centered coaches are women, and most of them were in corporate for a couple decades and then left. That puts them in the age bracket. A lot of people in my audience get value from that referral to this particular doctor, but it wouldn't make any sense for her to promote me because her audience is generally all women who are in that age bracket, very few of whom need to learn about joint ventures, networking, launching an entrepreneurial business, those kinds of things. Maybe some do, but if she were to send out a promotion for me to her audience, they'd be like, what the heck is this? Whereas I sent it to my audience and they're like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. So that's where you need to start from that perspective of what is valuable to my audience. Not what will I get paid for, not who will promote me if I promote them back, but actually what will be something that if my audience sees it in an email, they will say, oh, this is good. I'm glad you shared this with me. This is valuable to me. Because that means that they're going to, first off, not unsubscribe for your email list. And second, they're more likely to go to the thing you're showing them and want to buy it. The more aligned it is, the less good their sales has to be. If something's perfectly aligned, they could have the worst landing page, the worst presentation, the worst everything, but the audience is going to say, I don't care how you're selling it, just take it. As long as the credit card thing takes the credit card, they're going to do it. Whereas if it's poorly aligned, then it has to be a really well done landing page and a really well done presentation, a really well done everything. So the more aligned it's going to be, the better everything's going to be. But you always want to focus on the things that are going to deliver value. Think about the McDonald's movie tie-in, right? The reason they do that is that the kid comes to McDonald's and they say, oh, it's Elemental. I love that movie. I really want to get the toy. They don't need to sell it. They don't need to push it. The kid wants to buy the Happy Meal because the Elemental toy's in it. And seeing the Elemental toy at McDonald's reminds them they want to go see the movie. It's a natural, simple value add from both sides.
Sounds like the movie Frozen. So
Mhm.
you may end up having to watch it more than once as a parent.
Mhm.
Just FYI. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are frustrated by that, but I always tell them, just let it go.
Michael, I want to start with a compliment. You took a colloquial saying that anyone who's ever been in networking uses and made it your brand without having to call a New York agency. That is just genius.
My
And-
mother actually came up with it.
Well, everyone's mothers are special.
I was writing my book, trying to think of a name for it. My mother said, what about that New Jersey vibe? Like the guy who knows a guy. I'm like, hey, I like it. Let's go. Let's do it.
Even with spam filters, I know your email gets inundated with offers to
Mhm.
JV, often from people you've never even met. What makes your spidey sense tingle? How do you know there's a red flag?
With a JV, there needs to be green flags. It's not so much about what are the red flags. It's what are the green flags. By default, the answer is no. That is a newer thing, but I encourage everyone to adopt it right away. Because JVs, by default, are worthless. The average JV will cost you time, energy, and reputation to make you no money. When you start in the JV space, it sounds like it's magic. You promote them, they're going to promote you back, and your business is going to be huge. That does not happen for anyone. It may have happened at some point in the past. It doesn't happen now. When people are taught to go straight to JVs, they're not collab ready. They don't know how to convert. Their program is low quality. Even if someone does buy it, then they're going to be coming back to you and saying, hey, I bought this thing. It's trash. Fortunately, I have a promise I make to my audience that if I refer them to something and they buy it and they're not happy, I will mediate. Now, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but if I promote Joe and they go buy Joe's program and they say, yeah, Joe's program isn't what he promised, it's not delivering, not getting good service, I'm going to reach out to Joe and be like, Joe, we've got a problem because one of my people is unhappy with your program. They met through my list. If they're unhappy, I'm unhappy. And if I'm unhappy, you're unhappy. We need to make them happy so I can be happy and you can be happy. And should they say, screw them, I'm not going to help them, they paid, they signed the contract, blah, 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 then I will make sure that everyone in my community knows how unhappy they are. I've never had to do this, fortunately, because it'd probably be very complicated. And I think the fact that people know that I would do this keeps them honest and keeps them from asking me to JV on their sleazy program. Fortunately, keeps me out of trouble. Not that it wouldn't be fun, but it could be complicated legally. I don't know. But I am definitely selective on who I partner with, because if they lead with, you can make this much money, I'd say, I don't believe you, because 100 times 0 is still 0. So prove to me there's not a 0 in this line of multiplication. And then I'm going to want to know, who do you serve? How do you serve them? How do you know you can serve them? If you can serve them, how do I know you can convert them if you do deliver real value? And the first thing I'm looking for is, do they deliver value to people who don't buy? Because usually what I'm referring is a workshop, a webinar, maybe an ebook or something like that. But usually it's a workshop, webinar, something that's going to cost their time, because nothing's free. If your free webinar costs them something far more valuable than money, costs them time. So I never want to be referring someone to a webinar that's going to waste their time. I am not a fan of the bait and now. So there's your info sessions. That is, come here and learn how you can hire me to do a thing. Going in for a sales pitch. When I go to buy a car, I'm expecting a sales pitch. I don't want education. I don't want them to teach me something, tell me a story. I want them to sell me a car. This is going to be a sales process. That's why we're here. So if you tell me, or if you ask me to bring my audience to something where you say, I've got this amazing program, and in 40 minutes, I'm going to explain it to you and tell you why you should buy it, I will tell my audience, he's got an amazing program. Give him 40 minutes. He'll explain why you should buy it. And some people will say, oh, that sounds good. If it adds up to what I'm looking for, I think I'll want to buy it. There's totally people I introduce that way. I say, you should go meet Bill Davey. He's got an amazing program. He's going to tell you how great it is, and you should buy it. On the other hand, there's the webinar, the education. And that is, they've got a thing and they're going to teach you about it in 60 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever. So if you promise sales pitch, give a sales pitch. If you promise education, give education. If you promise education and they show up and instead of education, they get a surprise sales pitch, we have a problem, because you have stolen my audience's time. So I want to know, and that's why often if someone comes to me and says, hey, will you promote this? I'll say, I need to see a recording of your webinar. And I'm usually not going to watch the whole thing, but I'm going to scan through it and say, is this an instructional webinar or is this a pitchy webinar? And both are fine. It's the webinar that's halfway between, where they're like, in this webinar, I'm going to teach you A, B, and C. And they never quite get to it, but they use this like sleight of hand style of presentation where they're about to tell you, and then suddenly it's not there. Like you're going across the desert and there's the mirage that's always on the horizon. The thing you need to learn is always right over the next story or right over the next explanation, but somehow they just never quite get there. And then, time for the opera. What did we do here? I'm not cool with that. But that was a long way of saying, first, I want to know they're going to deliver value to my audience for the thing I'm promoting, which is the webinar. I'm not promoting their program. I'm promoting their webinar or their presentation. So first, show me that's valuable. And then I need to know that it's a person of integrity, that it's someone who's going to deliver real results, that they're not pulling any kind of shady stuff. There's a lot of people out there who don't know, who are promising things they can't deliver. There's someone out there who's actually teaching this method, which is that you create a $25,000 offer, but you risk reverse it, which means they only pay a quarter up front. So they're only paying $6,250, which that's hardly anything, right? That's couch cushion money. Who needs $6,000? Whatever. And that's their mindset about it, because the clients or the coaches who are being taught this don't actually know how to deliver the promise of the program. But don't worry, they'll learn it from the guru before they need to teach it to the client. Because as long as the client's moving slower than the coach is, you're fine, right? And this step short of fraud. Is it fraud? Maybe. It feels like fraud to me when you sell something you don't know how to do yet and you're hoping you're going to learn it before your client needs to learn it from you. But there's a lot of people out there who are in these programs that talk, go ahead and sell it, and don't worry, we'll make sure you have what you need before that. They have no idea how it's going to happen. They have no idea what the process is. And I've talked to some of these coaches, and it's inspirational to me, because I talked to one of these coaches and about one of the strategies they're teaching, and the way they're teaching it is unethical and arguably illegal. And I said, but if you did it this way or this way, it'd be okay, but you're doing it that way. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. You don't even know the nuances of what you're teaching. You've clearly never done it. Someone said it to you and you said it to your client and said, yeah, go do it. Tell me how that goes. Which, if you're doing $100 a month program, great, experiment, play around. I'll totally, like if I have $100 a month, I'm in my FIC program, my $100 a month program. I have things where I'll tell them, here's what I've learned. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but let me tell you and let me know how that goes. That's a $100 a month program. That's not betting the farm. $6,000, $10,000, $12,000. You damn well better know what you're doing. You better have done it before or worked with clients who have done it before. And so that's really what I'm looking for is, are they people of integrity? Can they deliver what they're promising? Do they tell the truth? Are they doing it to deliver value first and get paid for delivering value? Or are they doing it to make money and delivering value is how they have their customers not sue them? And it's that order of importance that's important to me. I want to only be promoting people who deliver value. For the audience, it's a matter of make sure your values are aligned with the values of the people you're promoting, and don't get distracted by how big they are. A lot of people get hung up on this. Oh, that guy's got 100,000 people on his email list. I want to work with him because he's going to promote me back. People with 100,000 person email lists can sub-segment their email list. And what most of them will do is they will reciprocate proportionally, and they'll do it generously. They'll reciprocate to a list the 120% the size of yours. So if you have a 1,000 person email list and they have a 100,000 person email list, you promote them to your 1,000, they'll promote back to 1,200. Except 100,000 person email lists tend to have much lower open rates because it's harder to really focus in with a list that big. So you promote to 1,000 and 250 open it. They promote to 1,200 and 150 open it. And you might as well have just promoted. You might as well just partner with someone who's your size instead of some big player who is selling some overpriced program. Because a lot of them, the way they scale is they're offering programs where the guru is no longer even in it. They're the supervising coach. All the delivery is by, there's some partners I know, coaches I know who they have coaches who work with them, but those coaches have been with them for 5-10 years. They've been through the program. They're really in it. And then there's coaches who they hire someone off the street, get them certified, and now they're off teaching the program, reading the script. But they're still charging $25,000 for the program because that's what it was worth when the guru themselves were teaching it. So don't be distracted by size. Size is not everything. And if you don't believe me, try driving a Ford F-150 through a parking lot and then drive a Honda Civic through a parking lot and tell me bigger is better.
As you were describing the process and the feedback loop, have you capitalized on reviews? There's typical one is Google reviews. Do you have a review mechanism where, and just if you're doing the promotion internally to your group, 5 out of 10 users or 9 out of 10 users love this, whether it's a star system or there's a response back. Or if conversely it goes the other way around, where this is a dog's breakfast, would you utilize that and say, listen to the person, you know what, people aren't finding it holy water.
So
And
yeah, I haven't done a lot with the reviews. The problem with this space is there's not much in the way of independent reviews. So with a restaurant, there's Yelp, and you can go to Yelp and that restaurant will be there, and the people who like them went there, and the people who don't like them went there. With Google, if you look up many coaches, they have 19 different corporate identities. So they ran their first program under this identity, and so all the negative reviews might have gotten there on Google. And then they run their new program under a new identity. And then they end up over here. And reviews are similar to SEO and things like that. They're very manipulable. So I don't pay a lot of attention to reviews. And even on more credible reviews, like Amazon reviews are pretty credible. But still, there's campaigns to drive reviews. You will intentionally reach out to your happy clients, say, please go post a review for me. And then your unhappy clients, you won't. So your unhappy client posts something angry on Twitter, and your happy client posts a review. And there's not really a good way to know, because people don't know where to go to complain. And that's where credibility comes in. And that's where integrity of the people referring you comes in. So I have worked to build a reputation of someone who is of integrity. And my standard is 0 negative reviews. So if I have ever heard anything bad about someone that I might promote, I won't promote them unless they've been able to answer. Sometimes someone will complain, and then you listen to the complaint, and you can tell, and that's, as a coach, you learn how to hear past what someone's saying. Like, you're saying this, but you mean this. I've heard plenty of stories where I don't even need to hear the other side, because just from this side, I don't believe you. Or they say, oh, I bought this program and it didn't work. The program was about copywriting, and you're saying that you weren't able to close any deals. That's not what the program was teaching. It was teaching copywriting. I bought this soda and I didn't get taller. Yes, it's a soda. It doesn't make you taller. But on the other hand, I've heard other stories. One person I promoted, someone on my list replied to me and said, hey, that guy you promoted, I worked with him in his very expensive program. And during the program, I had some questions about his style, not even complaints, questions about his style and his, hey, is this how you're going to be doing things? Is this how this works? The guru kicked her out of the program with no refunds. He said that she wasn't a good fit for the program and wasn't a good energetic fit, and get out. And by the way, your contract says no refunds under any circumstances. Goodbye. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, I heard this story from this person. And she gave me permission to tell him her name. And as soon as I said the name, he's, oh, yeah, I know who that is. She was a big troublemaker and blah, 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 blah. So yes, we did kick her out of the program. And I said, okay, cool. But you refunded her the portion of her payment for the portion of the program she didn't get. Is no, the contract clearly says no refunds. It stood up in court. It's well established. And I didn't need to go back to her and have her respond to what he said, because what he said damned him. When I'm listening to someone tell me our contract is ironclad and it stood up in court, you've been sued before? And we're right because the contract says we're right. And because we have good enough lawyers that we don't have to listen to our clients because we have a steel wall of legalese, that tells me I don't want to send people to that person, because that tells me the power dynamic is so uneven. And the mindset and the ethics of this coach are so misaligned to mine, I wouldn't want to put someone into that world at all. Yeah, that's why up above me it says connecting you to the good guys, because I keep a list of bad guys. It's a short list, actually. But people I've heard things about that I would not promote, that someone said, hey, should I work with this person? I will say, that person is on the list, not the good list. They're on the other list. They're on the coal and the stockings list. My audience is pretty good that if I mention a name one time and it is someone who has done something bad, that I will hear back. Because I've got a pretty my list isn't huge, but it's a list of well-connected people who have heard things and been places. So I'll share something once, I'll share its invitation, their webinar, their free event, and someone will come back to me and be like, you need to know about this guy. Oh, now I know. Gone. Never coming back again. Will never see the light of day on my list ever again. And that's my standard. So it's not about, they've got mostly 5-star reviews and a few 1-star reviews. It's, if I hear one bad story, they're done. Now, some people who is nuanced. It's, this person really knows their stuff. And if you are between 55 and 59 years old and you enjoy ping pong and football, but not soccer, then you'll really like this guy. But if you're not in that narrow thing, or this person's really aggressive, they're really in your face, but if you need that, they're a great coach for that. But if you need a pat on the back and someone to hold your hand, not your guy. Then I'll promote them, but I'll say that. I'll be like, this is the guy who's going to give you a boot in the ass if you need a boot in the ass, but they're not going to give you a hug. So if that's what you need, check this out, but be aware they are good at this, they're bad at this, and if this is what you need, this is your guy. But that's very different from the kind of person, because also that kind of person is often the kind of person who will say, you're not a fit for me, take your money, I don't want you in my program. But that's very different from, get out of here, oh no, I'm keeping your money, what are you talking about? Yeah, it's a lot about that ethical integrity. That's the first thing I look at, and then I consider all other criteria.
Actually, one thing that is neat, Michael, is Bernie and I are actually in a multi-year JV doing this, which is cool. Now, it hasn't given me the new SUVs I dreamt of, but that was mostly because I had to up my medication. But serious question. I understand the contract, and maybe it's the power of the contract. But when you are going into a collaboration where you are the weaker partner and your resources are substantially less than the person who you were working with, but you think you can bring something to them, how do you go beyond the contract? Because we all have egos that we both feel we brought more to the table than we did, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I would say I like to make every deal that I do, unless it's a true joint venture, in which case actually do need to work out all the details. But for a collaboration, I go into it from a standpoint of how easy is this to untangle? So if we're talking about an affiliate arrangement, I'm going to send you business, you're going to send me commissions. If you don't send me commissions, I stop sending you business. And if it's a little deal, you should have sent me $40. Okay, whatever. I learned I'm not going to do it. If it's a big deal, I had one guy who is a $5,000 program. He promised a 20% commission. And I made an introduction for him. I attended an event with his client, and his client mentioned, he says, "Oh yeah, I'm working with someone. I'm so glad I met him." I'm like, "Really? You're working with someone? That's interesting news that I had not previously received from another source." So I reached out and I said, "Hey, didn't we have some kind of commission arrangement here?" And he said, "Oh, I don't remember." Because oftentimes it's handshake deals. It's not formal contracts. He's, "Oh, I don't remember." And I said, "I do remember. And it was 20% of the $5,000 program, which tells me it should be $1,000. And now if you tell me that there was no deal, then that's the way it is. But that's not how I remember it." And he said, "Oh, that deal. Yeah, he's only paid me half so far. So I'm like, I'll give you the 500 and send me $500. He never sent me another dollar. I never sent him another introduction because I knew what kind of person he was." Interestingly enough, next time his name came up in conversation, it was associated with, remember the coach who kicked the woman out and didn't give her her money back? Those two were in partnership. Surprisingly, the one unreliable person and the other unreliable person were running a collaborative program together as a joint venture because people tend to align morally. I'm a big fan of having clarity of understanding so that we don't say, "No, I thought it was this. I thought it was that." This is what it is. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. You'll pay me this much. But I'm not a big fan of contracts in our space at the scale I operate at because they're not enforceable. And by what I mean is my biggest affiliate partners might pay me a few $1,000s. I don't think I've ever worked with someone in the same state as me, and many people are in different countries. What's it going to cost to litigate even if we have a contract and now I'm taking them to court and maybe it has to be done in their court or I've got to hire, just sending the letter that says, "Hey, you owe me money," costs $300. So if I think they owe me $4,000, $5,000, we're going to easily double, triple that in the litigation fees, court fees. It's just not worth doing. And everyone knows it. But the leverage is I know a few people. And you cheat me, a few people are going to know you. It's a story that it might get around. Some people might hear some things about some things that happen. And that's really the leverage. Now, if at the larger scale, and a lot of people say you need a solid contract, it needs to be this and that, and the lawyers, blah, 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 blah. These are people running $5 million businesses. And they're doing promotions to 100,000 person lists, and they're going to generate $80,000 in commissions. And yeah, then you need to have lawyers and contracts and the whole thing. But for most people I work with, they're not at that scale where that matters. The purpose of the contract is so there's clarity, not so you have something enforceable. Now, this is important to realize. My favorite one of the 7 habits of highly successful people: begin with the end in mind. What is your goal? Why are you doing it? So if you're writing a contract that is designed to stand up in court, it's going to be in Latin practically. It's going to have these long gibberish legalistic phrases. When you read it, you're going to be like, wait, what's this and the inheritance and this? Whereas if you're writing a memorandum of understanding, so you have clarity between the two of you, it should be in English or whatever language you speak. It should be in plain language. It shouldn't have 19 different phrases and descendants and blah, blah, blah. It should say, I will pay you 10% when a sale is made. That's how you say it, not the long legal way, because you want understanding of the parties. When you write a legalistic contract, you write it to be opaque because you don't want your partner to actually know what they're signing. But when you're making an agreement, you want it to be really clear what the deal is you're making so you won't have that disagreement. Because the worst, not the worst thing, but the most tragic thing is two good people who honestly misunderstand. It falls apart because it's, oh, I really thought it was 10. No, it was really 20. It was really 20? It was really 20. Damn, I couldn't do 20. I'm sorry. I really thought it was 10. And then even if you're like, okay, you honest misunderstanding, it's still hard to come back from that in a relationship. So you want to have that kind of clarity. But my enforcement, so for example, one of my programs I offer, it's called the Accelerated Growth Partnership. And the concept of it is that they pay $1,000 up front because that's where most of the time is going to be. I'm going to teach them a bunch of things and set up the plan. And then they pay the greater of 10% of the revenues I help them generate, or $200 a month. And that 10% of number is honor system. So they are going to send me a report and say, the additional gross revenues you've helped me generate are this much. And the revenues I generated that weren't you are this much. And so I owe you this many dollars. It's entirely on them. Whatever number they say goes. But the counterbalance to that is either one of us can end the deal at any time. So if I'm helping them make an extra $5,000 a month and they decide to report it as $1,000 a month, and I'm meeting with them and putting in this effort, and I'm pretty sure they're making more than they're paying me for, then I'm like, we're off. You're on your own. So it's an arrangement where either of us can leave at any time. They're paying me up front for the initial time, energy I'm putting in. And as long as they're being good to me, I'm being good to them. As long as I'm being good to them, they're being good to me. And at any point we can say, I think we're done here. All right. We part as friends. We're good. And even if they do stiff me on last payment or whatever, I now know a little bit more about them and what kind of person they are. And I move on to find someone of greater integrity. I never have interest in hiring a lawyer to deal with a client. I want to work it out. I want to figure it out. As an attorney friend of mine once said, if you ever end up in court, you both lost. Never has anyone gone to court and be like, I'm so glad we're here. This was the best outcome.
There'd be an odd desire in relationships. Either that or you're masochistic.
Yeah. Or you're an attorney.
There's the win. There's the win. Yeah. That and the judge, everybody gets paid, but exit strategies. So with the end in mind, you have a point in time you say, listen, it goes for X amount of time, or was it more a matter of the results are starting to wane?
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. Sorry. I'll use another phrase. The results are starting to peter out, and I picked another first name. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And they're starting to peter out and the viability is diminishing. Not that the business relationship is diminished, that particular exercise is not yielding what it should. Is that something you pinch it in the bud, or do you look at rebranding it, revitalizing it, reframing it so you have a structure? Do you just reshape it? So this might be another opportunity and go from there if you have agreement.
I think it totally depends on what kind of collaboration we're talking about. So many promotional partnerships are limited and renewable as opposed to ongoing. So a lot of them are built around promoting a launch, promoting an event, promoting something like that. And just because you promoted the one in March doesn't mean you'll promote the one in July. They have to ask again. That's also a mistake joint venture managers make, is saying, oh yeah, we have 800 partners. They're like, no, you had 800 partners. You have 0 partners for July because you haven't asked anyone yet. And you need to ask again. Yeah, some things are more ongoing, like you're running a podcast together or you really have a joint venture. And in that, you'd want to build in some mechanism where you're checking in regularly and saying, is this something we want to keep doing? It would probably be good at the beginning to determine what are the criteria under which these are successful? Under what criteria might we pause or end this? And under what criteria we definitely shut it down? So that's something to think about. But for most collaborations, they're the ones that aren't really joint ventures. Those tend to be pretty easy to just veer off of. You can let off the gas and ease away. Now, there's different types. Like I'll promote people in my resource letter. And the way that works is that somebody has, say, a monthly webinar, and I know they do good stuff. Some people in my audience benefit from it. I send it to my assistant, Kendra, and I say, Kendra, put this in rotation. And 8 days out of every 30, it shows up in the resource letter. I don't even know it's there. In fact, I'll get the payment notifications, and I'll have to look. I'll get the company name, because everyone's got a company name and their real name, and I don't know what their company name is because I know them by their real name. So I'll get the payment notification. I'll be like, who is this? Have I been promoting? I must have been promoting him. I just got an affiliate payment. But so it's so passive, I don't even know. It's just there in the resource letter versus the one where it's really promoting a launch. And then that is generally assumed to be something you reevaluate every time. So I promote the launch in October, and I'm going to look, how much did I make? How many unsubscribes did I get? What was the cost of it? What was the response to my audience? And then when they come back in February, I'm going to say either, yes, I'm totally back in, or I don't know. And very often that's a very gentle rejection, because those usually aren't very close relationships. It's, I promoted you, you paid me. It's the really close ones where it's a true joint. And that's why I differentiate collaboration. Because the term collaboration is everything. If you're working together, it's collaboration. A joint venture is a type of collaboration. And that's where you're really locking arms, building something together, creating something. In a joint venture, you need to know, what is the exit strategy? When do you reevaluate? How long do you keep in this? What resources do you put into it? Whereas a promotional partnership or an affiliate partnership or something like that's, I promote you, you pay me. I don't promote you, whatever. You got 85 partners. Depends on the type of relationship it is as to how important that is. And of course, again, you do also want to be somewhat cognizant of the partners you have and the feedback you get. But generally, if you maintain a good relationship with your audience, will tell you if there's an issue. So I'm pretty sure that if one of my audience members went to someone's webinar and it was a total waste of their time, they would tell me that it was a total waste of their time. And I would then know that, because I'm not necessarily going to all these webinars. I know the person, I know they're a good person. I know a little bit about their webinar, but I'm not spending 10 hours a week going to my partner's webinars, because I have a lot of other things to do. But I have 3,700 sets of eyes and ears out in the world who will come back to me and say, for this guy again. So, and that of course is the ultimate exit. That's not about the strategy. That's, as soon as that happens, I call Kendra, I'm like, they're out, take them off, which that hasn't actually happened. No one in my resource letter I've gotten bad feedback on and had to cut yet. It's about attracting good people.
Michael, some of our audience have ADD, and every word you've said I've enjoyed. But if you had to get 2 or 3 points across from the guy who knows a guy about collaboration and joint ventures, what would they be?
Sorry, I stopped paying attention in the middle of the question. Oh,
Good one.
ADHD. What? Who has that? What are you talking about? What was the question again? Okay, key points. So, first key point: before you ask partners to promote you, have all your ducks in a row. So, have a program that delivers value because you run someone through it. You can sell it because you've sold people through the same process you're sending the traffic through. And you've got the systems in place so you can track affiliates. Don't be like, oh yeah, send them to me. And if you send them on Tuesday, I'll know because you're the only one promoting me on Tuesday. That is not affiliate tracking. Get Thrivecart, get something that actually tracks the traffic in some fashion. And if you have janky software, admit, I don't have super advanced software. I can track if you send someone to a thing and they buy it, you get paid. I'm not going to promise you send me anyone anytime in the next 12 months because I don't have that kind of software. So, be honest about that, but have systems in place and have something worth promoting before you go out and ask people to. That's the first thing. Second, make sure that you are primarily delivering value to your audience. They entrusted you with attention. A big trust to get on someone's email list, but they entrusted you. Pretend it's big trust. They entrusted you by signing up for your email list and reading your emails. earn that trust by delivering things that are of value. When you refer a partner, make sure it's someone you're referring to say, I think my audience will benefit from this, and not, I think I'll make a lot of money here. Fortunately, those go together. I think my audience will benefit from this, so I think I'll make a lot of money. That's good. But don't start from, I think I'll make a lot of money, and yeah, my audience is probably okay with it. So start from that value point. And third, have a very strict ethical and moral guidelines, because this is not an either or. You can be ethical and moral, or you can make money. This is being ethical and moral is the foundation of making money. Because if you compromise your integrity and you compromise your values, you can never go back from that. If you've ever done something 20 years ago, look at politicians. I'll pull something up from 1987 that they did. And we get Tim Walz running for vice president here in the United States. He got a DUI in the mid-90s. They tried to bring that up on him. I don't think he's touched a drop of alcohol since then. They didn't mention that. But he did something way back 30 years ago. They brought it up. So have a zero tolerance policy for your own ethical and moral deviations, and thus have a similarly high standard for anyone you might partner with. Not necessarily everyone you might encounter, but anyone you're going to be referring to your audience, make sure that they are the same high ethical and moral standards you have. And if you get one complaint and it's not dealt with, then like the Better Business Bureau, if they have one negative unanswered complaint, you have an F. You have to answer it to get from an F to a higher grade than an F. So have that same policy. If you have one negative bit of feedback from someone you're promoting, you don't promote them again until that is answered and the person who complained is satisfied, or the person who complained, you may also determine that they're overreacting or whatever. That's okay. You don't have to give that much power to every individual in your audience, but your audience, getting back to the second point, has entrusted you, and they trust your integrity, and you need to fulfill that trust by protecting your audience. And if necessary, sticking up for them. They're part of your community. And God help someone who hurts a member of my audience, so I referred to them. Hasn't happened yet. I hope it never happens. I hope it does happen. No, I don't hope it does happen. Fun as that would be. I do not hope it does happen. But I would absolutely stand up for any member of my audience if someone I referred does them wrong. And you need to have that same level of integrity too.
Michael, a great hour. How do folks reach you to know the guy who knows the guy?
The way to connect with me is you go to my website, guywhoknowsaguy.com. No article on the front, so it's not the guy or a guy. It's just guywhoknowsaguy.com. And I run an event called JV Connect quarterly that you can find at jv-connect.com. And you can make some great connections with some high integrity people there.
Excellent. I want to say thank you to Michael Whitehouse, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you're looking to do ventures and want to understand a bit more, maybe Michael has some connections. He knows a guy. Try him out. Check it out. You reach us, info@creativeinsight.com. That's info@KREATIVINSIGHT.com. Website's creativeinsight.com. Wayne, how can folks reach you, sir?
Best way is my website, motivateu.ca, MOTIVE, the numeral 8, the letter U.ca.
If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At High, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.